for those of you guys who are watching the video, our room is finally complete, our podcast room. We still want to like kind of change it up to the look, but the painting's done, which took me a long time.
I do like they call it our podcast room when it's your house. But yes.
I will say though,
this is mine.
Kayla did say she was going to help me with it, and she did not help me at all.
Okay, I said yeah, I was going to help, but then she was doing it on you were doing it on the days that I was busy.
I was doing it on the weekends because it's the only time I could do it.
I didn't notice, like, hey, Kayla, listen, on Saturday, it's just like we tell our mother.
I need my watch.
Give me notice.
Be right back.
Anyways.
BRB. Don't worry, that's a phone. That was not me.
Anyways, if this was my room, it'd be nice because I really do like the color in here. But it's okay that's not because I don't have to do any of the work, clean it, nothing, and I'm good with that.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
No work and all the...
No work, what is it? No something, all the glory.
All the payout?
I don't know. Anyways, guys, we are continuing, like we said before, with our advanced training methods this podcast.
this round.
Yeah, another round.
We were doing rounds of, is that boxing or fighting?
I really do want to actually learn to do that. I thought about booking us a boxing consultation, kind of, like, for our birthday.
Well, Nathan has a boxing bag, up in the gym.
Yeah, no.
And I literally watched YouTube videos trying to work out my, forward technique. Like, jab, uppercut.
I watched YouTube's on boxing, and then I just box the air. I just, attempt it. And then, honestly, I was watching myself in the mirror, and it looked terrible.
Okay, but if I think about any time I've ever started anything, the first time I ever started, it looks terrible. For one, think about Mom when she did those insanity videos with us. She would be up what are you doing? And two, I just actually did a Instagram video about this yesterday, but it's my form from college in 2016 to my form today in 2022. And it was just atrocious compared to what today is. How much I bettered myself, I sucked at it. But in college, when I filmed it, I'm like,
it's always
kudos, Caitlin, way to go, that's awesome.
I think it's hard the older you get to be a novice at something because you don't want to look stupid because you feel like you're already this age or whatever, you should know what you're doing. But if you pick up a new thing, you should know what you're doing.
I think that comes down to be just more self-aware of yourself and more comparative.
More comfortable?
No, what I'm saying is you're more looking at yourself in a comparative way versus when you're younger and you're just trying something out. I don't think you're as much looking at other people oh, I want to look like them. You're not as not insecure, but I guess for lack of a better word.
More self-confident maybe?
I'm saying you're more self-conscious when you're older, which is why people drop off because they don't want to look dumb starting something new. When you're younger, you don't really notice how dumb you look. When you're in 4th grade, I don't think you...
When you're little, no, you don't care. You're right. You're running around the playground, you're doing dumb things, and you really could not give one shit. When you get older, yeah, because you think people are watching, but no one's watching.
I also think it comes down to it's harder to try new things when you get older because it kind of changes your habits. You have to keep up with it to be able to actually learn something and master it.
That's true. I think when we get older, for me anyways, I just want to be able to do it and do it well. That it does suck sometimes, in my opinion, to have to keep working to progress. And you start at something when you're younger, like sports, and then you eventually get better and better and better as you get older. Then when you're 30 and you still want to play basketball, it's not like a chore to go play.
Yeah, because you have a lot of the skills. Yeah. But also, if you think about too how much time goes in and effort, you're kind of made to do that when you're in high school. Not made to, but you're expected to be at practices. No one's holding your hand and telling hey, you need to practice this every day when you get older, which is why I think it's also so hard to learn something. Because you're not it's up to you if you decide to put in that work to practice and learn, or if you don't.
That's true. No one pushes you when you get older besides yourself. So if you don't have that mindset, it's not going to happen.
No, you're going to be the same person. Not the same person. You're not going to get any better. All right.
Anyways, guys, we're not going to ramble on like we did last podcast for 10 minutes.
What do you mean? I like the banter. I like the talk in the morning. I think it's just nice.
Just when I listen to podcasts, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Where's the stuff about the information? Where's that part? And I forward it, and then I skip the spot where it started, and then I get pissed off, and I backwards, but it's not right.
I don't feel like I forward past that. I forward past all the ads. I'm just not a big fan of listening to ads.
Oh, I never listen to ads.
I think maybe if it's something that I actually kind of enjoy or want to learn about, but otherwise I'm just trying to forward it. Yeah.
Definitely not an ad person.
But anyways, guys, we're ahead of the game this week. We're recording the podcast today. It's Tuesday. Kind of ahead of the game.
Ahead of the game?
I was going to say kind of ahead of the game. the podcast is supposed to be recorded every Sunday. That's like our schedule, and I'm not sure when the last time we recorded it on a Sunday.
I think a day ahead is on schedule, not ahead of the game. We're not
This day has a game.
procrastinating.
Okay, we're on schedule.
Yeah, we're not procrastinating because a lot of times we end up doing it on a. Hey, did you plug in the microphone?
Hey, that's a good. Okay, time out.
I hate you.
I need to add the microphone.
I just thought something. Never mind.
Did you have to organize and clean the room? No. Did you have to set things up? No. Did you also have to do all those other things I did?
Question. Why is that ugly desk back in here? Get rid of that.
Nathan, it's Nathan's desk.
Perhaps we ship it to the attic. Is there an attic here? Or the basement?
There we go. We're
sound on the podcast to sound on the YouTube video, and she had to put it together. So if it looks like we're like,
No, the sound.
face, woman.
The sound's still gonna be on the on that because I didn't have the microphone plugged in, so it was just the camera picking up the sound, so it's not gonna be as great. But now the microphone's on and it's plugged in, so double whammy. Okay, perfect.
All right, now guys, let's start the podcast.
Let's get into it. So guys, we talked about advanced
Training methods.
training methods. Yeah, I'm trying to blank. Advanced training methods on ways to improve and progress your training once you've hit either that plateau in your training, or you're just looking for another way to kind of keep growing or keep challenging yourself.
Or to try and hit hypertrophy, obviously. Like, this is a great way. These are great methods to really try to build some serious muscle.
Yes, but I mean, actually compared to progressive overload, these pale in comparison to the output. It's just added like advanced training methods to really help you continue growing once you hit that plateau. So progressive overload is the king of any type of any way to advance your training is just through progressive overload, trying to, like, obviously we know what this is, increase those either reps, weight, fix your form, all that kind of stuff is going to be the king when it comes to progressing.
And really quickly, I do want to mention, I think that we might have talked a little bit about this in the podcast last time, so the first advanced training methods part 1. But this is kind of if you're like, not necessarily advanced, but say you're like a person that just started training and you're like wanting to get the best gains. So you go to GNC, and you get like all the supplements or all the proteins, all the stuff to help advance you and like kind of push you over the edge. But honestly, when you just start, you don't really need the supplements. You just need to train, you need to eat
Well, you're going to
protein.
realize that stuff's going to do nothing for you because you don't have the baseline.
Well, it's not even just that. I'm saying you just don't need all the extra fluff.
Okay.
Just start with the basics. The basics is what's going to like push you places. And that's kind of with the training as well, like these advanced methods. If you're new to training, honestly, disregard these advanced methods right now because I think you just need to master the basics of going to the gym, being consistent, getting your workout in. You don't need the extra fluff of a rep pause method or a drop set or any of those things.
Because like the last thing you need to worry about is what these things are even. Like you just need to worry about, your form, you need to understand your basic exercises, how do you do a squat, how do you do a barbell squat, like placement, all that kind of stuff, technique, and it's just your head's gonna be spinning if you're gonna be trying to incorporate these advanced methods of training, or even just trying to like juice up your training sessions right now when you're just trying to learn the basics. So
that's like if I went into boxing right now and I was like trying to do like all those kicks and crazy like sequences, and I just didn't understand the basics of how to punch.
You'd be like looking like a monkey in a ring.
Exactly.
And people like, what the fuck is she
doing? So basics
doing?
are key. Master the basics, then move on. Like you don't need to concern yourself or stress yourself out because it will be a stressor to just kind of learn all this other stuff that just isn't needed right away.
Alright guys, without any more further talking, we're going to get into it. The first two that we're going to talk about kind of go hand in hand, and it's enhanced eccentrics and accentuated eccentrics. So we're going to talk about the difference, and we're going to just start with enhanced, yeah.
Eccentrics.
I just cannot talk today. Enhanced eccentrics. So this requires you to use a heavy load during the eccentric phase. So the eccentric phase, let's take a hip thrust. the eccentric phase is a phase going down. So when you're lowering, it requires you to use a heavier load during that time. So during this time, your muscles are lengthening while contracting. So when you're lowering into the bottom of hip thrust, that's when your muscles are lengthening while contracting in that lowering phase. And this is where we want to add that extra load on, because this is going to make it harder for you when you're going down.
There's actually a few ways that you can do this, right? Like, I know one way is if you do a single leg hip thrust. So you do 2 legs on the way up, so a regular hip thrust on the way up, and then on the way down, you switch to one-legged, so it's going to be harder, obviously, on the eccentric phase going down.
Yeah, so that's how you would increase that load, is by, instead of having 2 legs to help stabilize you, you now have 1, which makes that load heavier on that single leg. Another way, which actually I've used a few times with you, just more so joking around though, like Caleb being in the gym doing like a hip thrust or something, and I'd come over and on the way down, I'd be pushing down the bar, or what's another one? Like, if we've done this before with like leg raises. So on the, like, your partner raises their legs up, and the person who is on top, like being their partner, they like throw their legs down, and you have to control that movement down.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's another example of enhanced eccentrics, controlling that movement down and having extra force on the way down that you have to go against. And I don't program this one as often. I can't say I usually do.
I usually don't, unless it's like actually no, I really honestly don't ever use this, because if I'm going to do a single leg hip thrust or something like that, anything with single leg, I just stay with the single leg, and I don't use 2 legs when I'm coming up from something, or if I'm not eccentrically going, like
I think that's also,
eccentrically
I think that's a great way though to get the single leg stronger, because if you think about it, if you're not good at the contracting or the lockout portion of a single leg, slowly increasing that eccentrics and getting that load up higher is going to get you stronger enough to be able to do that single leg, full lockout, full single leg hip thrust. Another example that you can do enhanced eccentrics with is with a Nordic hamstring curl, and this is kind of the same thing with the leg raises. Like, your partner pushes you down, you have to slowly go down and then come back up. And that one is leg curls. Nordic ham curls are very hard, or even honestly GHD hamstring curls is body weight, but as long as you're doing actual form, your like hamstrings are on fire the whole time.
It's actually really hard to even just do a few. I was doing those I think we were at ETS. You could put your legs in there.
Oh yeah.
You could go down and to control the whole way down.
And come back up without your hips pushing up. Like, most people actually do it wrong.
Butt first.
Their butt, they instead of staying in that straight line with hips and pelvic all the way forward, their hips start shifting back, trying to pull their body back up instead of staying in that straight line. So that takes obviously some of the load off your hamstrings when you're doing that.
So that is the first advanced training method that we have for you guys today, is enhanced eccentric training. But now we're going to get into the second kind of part of that, which is the accentuated eccentrics.
So accentuated eccentrics is very similar to enhanced eccentrics, except that you're not increasing the load, you're just slowing down the time it takes you to get to the bottom of that movement. So, for example, for the hip thrust, once you reach lockout, or once you reach the contracted portion, which your hips are all the way up, you slowly lower the bar all the way down through that eccentric motion.
So it's like 1 second up, and then to lower your hips, it's like 4 to 6 seconds down. And you could do this obviously not only with body weight, but obviously you could use weight on there. You can go up fast, whatever, not super fast, but obviously at a good pace, up quick, like for 1 second or so, and then slowly lowering your hips back down, or even going into a squat, slowly squatting all the way down to the bottom and then standing back up.
100%. I would say too that this correlates very well into what tempo training is.
Yeah.
Tempo training really is utilizing that slow eccentric, and sometimes it just tells you how fast you should do a concentric or eccentric portion of an exercise, which is kind of like having accentuated eccentrics, because a lot of times they will have you slow down the eccentric portion of an exercise.
I really do like tempo work, and I wish I utilized tempo work more in my like not heavy training day, but like mobility type of days or something like that, just more eccentric and different tempo work in there, because I think that when you have your heavy days and all that stuff, like, you just kind of want to stick to just trying to lift heavy.
You're focusing on form and all that stuff.
And I'm not sure that there's always a place for tons of advanced training methods when you're just trying to do a heavy day or heavy loaded day. I think those are days we just need to focus on form and doing it right.
I will say though, it doesn't have to be on a heavy day. I will say though that slowing down the movements, whether that be trying to slow down eccentric or whatever it is, just slowing down exercise can really help you keep form better and feel the contraction better. Sometimes when you're just whipping through an exercise that you can see that you're so out of like form and your technique is really bad because you're just going so fast through it.
Well,
so
definitely, like you have a better mind-muscle connection when you're just slower, and I think you're really thinking about the movement you're doing. You're really thinking about like the weight and how it's like pushing on your muscles or whatever it is. Like
right, you're not just trying to get through the reps as fast as you can. So when it comes to training with accentuated eccentrics, this is actually really great for training around injury.
I hate that, yeah.
And when it comes to like people, whether they have a muscle strain or if they are just really sore, it's great to kind of reduce that load and start working on the eccentric portions and just taking things slow to really not aggravate that injury and not make things worse.
That is super important thing because a lot of people want to train through an injury or they feel like a muscle strain, they want to go to the gym and get the same kind of work in, and you can get great work in still with this method, but it really does allow you to just kind of go slower through the movements and not aggravate it even more to a point that you strain something, pull something, break something, whatever it is.
Honestly too, like usually like if you're sore or if you have like strain, if you continue straight like going through this and like pushing yourself, you're just gonna end up tearing whatever it is that you're working, and you can tear anything from your glutes or whatever it is, and that's gonna take a lot longer for you to rehab and for you to have to come back from that. You're gonna be doing these slow eccentrics anyways at that point, / no weight on the bar. So when your body is telling you to slow down, really try and listen to it, because you're gonna have those cues. You're gonna be really fatigued some days. You're gonna just feel very sore. You're gonna feel like it just feels uncomfortable. Listen to the cues. You're not missing a lot of gains by taking a day off. It'll probably help you in the long run.
The cool thing too about the accentuated eccentrics is that this is a exercise or a way of lifting for hypertrophy still, because even though you could use like a lighter load during this period, you're still sparking muscle growth because of the time under tension. So when you're going down for 4 to 6 reps in that eccentric phase right there, or 4 to 6 seconds, for the eccentric phase, you're putting your body under a lot of tension for 4 to 6 seconds longer than you normally would. So even if you use like a 10 pounds lighter, you're still getting a great workout in to get 100% muscle growth.
Yeah. I really do love those. I use accentuated eccentrics all the time, whether that be sometimes in temple work or just program that in my own training days. But it has really helped me, one, to like fix and help my technique and form, and it's also really helped, like we talked about before, to increase my mind-muscle connection.
Yeah.
Which is really important when you're actually trying to work a certain area.
One thing too that I was just thinking about when I was driving here actually is, I think that
You make notes on your phone and in here.
Yeah, I have too. But I wrote it down on the way because I want to talk about this. But in the olden days, I think that...
In the olden days? Where are we going with this?
Okay, olden days, beginning of bodybuilding, I guess, beginning of like hypertrophy training. People, or mainly men, I think, so it was mostly them that trained this.
Yeah, it's definitely more men.
But there was probably a few women that were the starters for everyone. Go, women. Anyways.
Okay.
Anyways.
What are you talking about?
Anyways, what I'm saying is that I think that they started with how it felt. Like, it was quality over quantity. Like, back then, I think that people would do reps and they wouldn't know how many reps they were doing. They would just go until they felt like the pump or the burn. And they're like, oh, I got a great workout in. And now I think a lot of it's focused on, like, quantity, because I think when you have a quantitative number, obviously you're able to achieve or go better or get like a personal best, push yourself more, whereas like they just did till it hurt. And obviously we know that just because you feel a burn or tension in your muscles doesn't mean that it was necessarily a great workout. So if you are able to use quantitative or over qualitative, and you're able to say, okay, I did this many reps this time, next time, we're back. Killing fix the camera and the GoPro.
Well, the camera can only record for like 29 minutes, like at 30 it shuts off. And well, one of my car was full, so I had to delete some stuff.
One thing I really wanted to add in here in between our next two, I know we have 2 more to go, but I wanted to bring this up to you, I guess, is, would you say on a heavy day, obviously you're lifting really heavy weights, okay, and you're definitely achieving muscle growth, you're pushing yourself, you're probably getting new PRs because it's like a heavy day, you're probably like really lifting, you know, right?
I would say almost like any training day I'm looking to like improve in some way, whether that be
I'm saying on your heavy days, you're really hauling ass, right? And then on your moderate days, obviously you're not.
I'm still hauling ass on a moderate day. It's just
But
lighter.
just lighter weight. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay,
well, I'm just saying.
lighter.
I'm like, hey, don't take away from my work ethic on my moderate days here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have clarified. But moderate days obviously is lighter weight. So I would say that these advanced training methods, in a way, are not exactly as going to be as heavy, obviously, as your heavy days. Because I think that with advanced training methods like pause or rep pause method, whatever it is it rep pause or pause rep? Rep pause.
Pause rep method or
pause. For some reason, I have like issues with which way it goes.
It's a pause method, like rep pause.
Yeah. Anyways, even with drop sets, all those things, you can't go as heavy as you would on like a really, really heavy day because you're going to get gashed faster by doing these different advanced methods.
And I would say, honestly, I don't see in a lot of other people's programming, and
oh, something's buzzing. Oh, it's a car.
It's a vehicle. I don't see a lot of in other people's programs, and I don't program them. And I don't program them in my own programming. I don't see a lot of the primary like big compound lifts having a lot of advanced training methods. I see more of the accessory lifts having more of the advanced training methods built into them. But your big compound lifts, your primary lifts, like if it's a back squat, I just see like sometimes on the heavy days it's 4 sets of 6 reps, and that's really it. Like.
That's because honestly, the back squat is such a full body movement that you're taxing like your whole system. All your muscles are being used.
Well,
that'd be really hard, I think, to do more advanced training methods with that.
100%. If you're trying to lift heavy and you're doing pulses, like one, you're not probably gonna be able to get the 20 pulses that it's trying to do. Like they don't go together.
No.
They have different different outcomes of what they're trying to get with different training methods and having your primary lifts. So some of your primary lifts really are just for hitting that technique, doing that progressive overload, and lifting heavy, and you don't need that advanced training methods, and those come in more for the accessory work, or like you said, more your lighter days, moderate days, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
But even on my heavy days, I have more accessory work that is like a few lighter reps. Like it's not heavy throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. The next advanced training method we want to talk about today is 1 1/4 reps. And for me, I'm just gonna say like this is really big because obviously, well, this is Kayla talking, but I use 1 1/4 reps a lot in my hip thrusts specifically. Also in my shoulder presses, I like to do 1 1/4 reps. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier with the pulses. It's a full rep and then basically a pulse at the top or the hardest range of the hardest spot. Hardest part of the movement. Oh my gosh.
Neither of us can talk today that we trip over our words constantly.
Well, it's that my mind is going so fast and my mouth just is slow AF and it just needs to speed up. But, so 1 1/4 reps, like I said, I already said it. I don't need to say it again.
Yeah, so it's a full rep combined with a pulse. I see these a lot, and I program a lot with Bulgarian split squats. So you're going to go down for that full range of motion. You're going to come up a quarter of the way, go back down to the bottom, and then you'll come up back to the starting position. And this works a lot with all the other workouts you can do with this 1 1/4 rep. That can be your goblet squats. It can be your lateral raises. You come up to the full range, come down that quarter, back up to the top, and then back down. So you're going to see it programmed with many different exercises, and it's a burner for sure. Like at the hardest part of that movement, bringing that weight back up, to get back to the top and then come back down, it's very challenging.
It's exhausting too because it's like, if I was just doing a regular rep on hip thrust, 1 and I'm done. Okay, but then I gotta do another up 1, 1.
Yeah.
Like 2, 2. It just takes longer.
Instead of what goes in your head, you go 1, 1.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say.
That's how you count.
Yeah.
Good grief.
That is exactly how I
You
count.
could just go, 1 hip thrust, do the pulse, back down, 2, pulse, back down, 3. Okay.
I count it all out. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4.
That's weird, and people are probably getting confused right now.
It's in my head. Anyway, so that is the other one.
Another great example is, anything cable, whether that be cable face pulls. It can even be with a row, so you row up, come back down quarter that way, row back down, and then let it go.
I just don't know exercise you couldn't do with.
No, really,
a plank.
1 1/4 reps.
Actually, you don't do reps with planks, so yeah, no.
No, that's nothing. But 1 1/4 reps is definitely a great way to add in a pulse if you don't want to pulse the whole way and you want to be able to go the full range of motion. So you want to hit top and bottom of that range of motion and then add in that smaller range of motion with it compared to the pulse.
Yeah.
Alright guys, our last one we're going to talk about and go over today is clusters. So the cluster training method is basically a group of reps with shorter rest windows.
Yeah, so this, for an example, is...
This is going to be hard to explain, I think, for some people.
I'm gonna explain it really well.
Oh, okay.
If you're going to do 3 sets of 10 reps, and you're going to rest 2 minutes, a cluster example would be, instead of doing 3 sets of 10...
Wait, 1 second. You're doing 3 sets of 10 with a 2-minute rest between those sets.
Yes, that's what I just said.
No, you didn't say between the sets. That's where your rests are.
A cluster set would be, instead of doing 3 sets, you're going to up it to 6 sets. Instead of doing 10 reps, you're going to down it to 5 reps. Instead of doing a 2-minute rest in between, you're doing a 1-minute rest in between. So you're upping your sets, lowering your reps, and also lowering your rest time. Because you're doing more sets, less reps, less rest.
And what this is doing is that you're still performing, like overall, you're still performing 30 reps in that time, and it's the same amount of time. So because you're doing more sets, it's going to take more time for those rest periods in, because you have 6 areas where your rest periods are going to go in instead of just, 3? And then you just change from that 2 rest period minute to a 1-minute rest period.
However, data has shown that this actually isn't as good for muscle growth because you're not fatiguing your muscles.
Oh, for sure. Like, this is just a way to, for example, if it's hard for you to hit if you get really fatigued trying to hit that 10 reps in a row, you're only doing 5, so you're not really loading your body as much as you would be.
Yeah, unless of course you got like a way higher weight, but then the rest would be a little insignificant for a really heavy weight, obviously.
Yeah, so you don't build the same amount of metabolic stress, but you do get the same amount of volume in cluster sets.
With this, I think if we were to kind of, what would be helpful?
I want to go over really quick though, like the things that are great about cluster sets though.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so there's 2 big things that I really like about cluster sets. The first one is it's going to be easier on your body, okay? So it's not quite as taxing on your body. You're not pushing yourself to fatigue. You're not going to break yourself down as easy because obviously the load is not quite as much. The second one is it actually helps develop power. So when you have a lighter weight on the bar and you're not going to, for say 10 reps, which is more fatiguing, you're only doing 5, you're able to still work heavy weight with heavy weight, but you're able to keep the reps explosive since you're having more time, like reps and more in the tank to give than when you're doing 10 reps. So being able to be a little bit more explosive with 5 reps with the same weight versus you're not going to be as explosive with 10, because by the time you hit 5 reps and you're still going for 10, your explosiveness and your basically just like, what you have left in the tank is starting to die down. So you're not going to be as explosive once you get to 8, 9, or 10.
And also I think when you get further and further and further, it's going to be harder to keep form, obviously, when you keep going.
So yeah, there's definitely a time when to train in clusters, sets, or reps. And I think it's a little bit more utilized towards people who are aiming for power output or trying to be a little bit more explosive. And I think I would program this more towards like an athlete or something. Someone who's trying to generate more force, more power, be a little bit more explosive. This is one way to really get that into the training session, is through cluster sets.
And if you're not an athlete, I wouldn't really say it's a training style that you'd really want to incorporate, or advanced training method that you'd want to incorporate necessarily, unless you really enjoy doing it
or
something.
Unless you really don't want to push your body to fatigue. Like, it's definitely a way to dial back your training style, especially if you just don't have that energy. This is a great way to kind of dial the training style back, but still hit the same amount of volume sets.
What I really like about advanced training methods is that I think a lot of these different methods are great ways to kind of save time in the gym, especially like a superset or something like that. Like if you're kind of crunched on time, I guess, and if you go and you do superset of like a shoulder press with a lateral raise or something, you're going to be doing them back to back with no rest in between. It speed up your workout, obviously.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, pretty cool in some aspects. And I think in some aspects, obviously not all of them are going to save you time, because some are going to take a little bit longer, like a rest pause method or a drop set. Things are going to
For sure, yeah. It just depends. All of these advanced training methods have their area that can be implemented into your training to help, whether that be because you're injured or you're feeling strained, whether that be because you want to increase your power, whether that be because you want to save your time. All these different advanced training methods have their place.
And really quick, so obviously these aren't going to be necessarily for like a really new person in the gym, right? Because we want them just to kind of focus on basics, get good at them.
We did talk about this.
I know, but if we were to kind of tier off, like if you're new, but you want to do advanced training methods, what would be tier 1 of an advanced training method you could try? What would be a second tier 2, like a harder advanced training method, and then tier 3, like a third harder training method?
You're trying to say, like, what order would you start implementing some of these in?
Yeah, exactly. And I know we haven't talked about supersets yet. I don't know if that's one that we're going to hit.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to hit. Are you trying to say
I'm saying I think that should be a tier 1. If we're going to tier these in, I think the supersets should be a tier 1, because I know we'll talk about next podcast, but it's basically just hitting the same muscle group with 2 different exercises. I think that's pretty easy for beginners to understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think pulses are pretty easy too. I would say though, it's the reason why I think it's hard to tier things is because everybody has their own goals of where they're being. If you're an athlete, you're not probably going to use some of these advanced training methods. You might only want to use cluster sets. You might only want to use,
No, but some of the same advanced training methods are kind of grouped in the same category of like the level of hard for understanding and doing.
Yeah, you're looking at how easy to understand and implement in your training.
Yeah, like
not,
for a
not
novice.
goals.
Like for a novice beginner trainer.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely quite a few that are pretty easy to understand. Pulses, I think, are pretty tier 1. Supersets, like you said, are pretty tier 1. It's basically just performing one exercise back to back with another one.
Tier 2 could get into like some drop sets, also some myo reps. I know we haven't talked about those yet. And then even tier 3, I think, would be like specific exercise selection, or precise kind of. Like, because I think that kind of gets into like, you really need to know what you want to train, how you want to train it.
And what type of advanced method is going to help you with that, you're saying?
Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where the training, what you're training for, comes in, because that's where you need to know like what's going to benefit you the most for your training style, what you want to like achieve in your training goals.
Got it. Your tiers were a little confusing though, because you said we're literally taking advanced training methods, and you're like, okay, these going to tier 1, these going to tier 2, and then tier 3, you're like, oh, it's going to be specific exercise selection. You're not saying like which.
There's nothing that specifically goes into tier 3, because I think that at that point for a novice trainer, that's tier 3, because you don't really understand what these advanced training methods are gonna. Yeah, exactly. That's why I think that'd be tier 3. It's like whatever you understand, finally know that you need.
Kayla's having a hard time over here explaining.
If you want to interrupt me, it would go a lot better, Caitlin.
Anyways, guys, those are our, we had technically 5 that we covered today, but those are our 5 advanced training methods that would, if you're looking for a way to spice up your training, or if you hit that plateau, or you just want to try these out in your program, these are great to try out. We'll probably talk a little bit more about them through our Instagram, maybe a blog post, just kind of show them a little bit more, because I am such a visual person.
Okay.
Alright guys, thanks again for listening with us today. We'll see you guys on our next podcast.